Most people look at a desert and see a place that has already made up its mind. The land is dry, the sun is unforgiving, and survival depends on learning to live with scarcity. But every once in a while, a country decides to question what looks permanent. Israel did exactly that. Instead of treating its dry climate as an obstacle, the country asked a question that almost sounded naive at first. What if the desert could one day have more water than it needs? What if a region famous for droughts could shift from fear to abundance? It is the kind of question that makes most governments uncomfortable because it challenges long-standing assumptions about what nature allows. Yet by 2025, Israel is one of the few nations on Earth producing more water than it consumes, and the rest of the world has been trying to figure out how this happened so quickly. To understand how this transformation began, you have to go back to the one place that looks least likely to hold answers: the Negev Desert. The Negev is not the kind of desert you see on postcards, where soft dunes stretch into a gentle horizon. It is a harsh, rugged landscape shaped by heat, wind, and an almost total absence of moisture. During the day, temperatures easily race beyond 40 degrees, sometimes creeping toward 47 as warm air settles like a lid over the land. The ground loses water faster than it receives it. Nights bring a sudden drop in temperature, but instead of offering relief, the rapid cooling forces the remaining moisture to disappear before it can even settle into the soil. Plants grow only where old streams used to run, and even then, their roots stretch deep into the earth for any hint of hydration. Unlike deserts that receive occasional help from fog or melting ice, the Negev is isolated. No rivers cut through it. No seasonal winds deliver moisture. Some years, not a single drop of rain falls. In a good year, rainfall climbs to about 200 millimeters, but that number hides the truth. Those 200 millimeters rarely arrive when farmers need them. They come in sudden bursts, often causing flash floods instead of steady nourishment. For decades, this region shaped Israel's national anxiety, especially as the population grew and water demand outpaced natural supply. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, the situation reached a breaking point. Lake Galilee, Israel's main freshwater reservoir, shrank year after year. Environmental scientists warned that if the water level dropped below the so-called black line, the lake would suffer long-term damage that might never reverse. The lake's ecosystem was on the edge of collapse. Israel had to choose: either continue fighting nature with old methods or re-engineer its relationship with water entirely. That turning point forced the country to rethink water not as a gift but as a resource that could be created, transported, recycled, and stored with the same seriousness used to manage electricity or oil. Interestingly, the first seeds of this transformation were planted decades earlier. In the early 1950s, Israel's first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, made a statement that most people considered unrealistic. He said the future of Israel depended on the Negev. At the time, this idea felt almost impractical. Most development happened near the Mediterranean coast, where the weather was kinder, soil richer, and water more accessible. But Ben-Gurion looked at the map differently. He saw that the desert covered nearly 60% of the country. If that land remained unproductive, Israel would always be limited by geography. Worse, as climate conditions changed, desertification could creep northward and threaten more populated regions. His proposal was bold: tame the desert before it takes more territory. This thinking led to the early versions of what would become the Water Triangle Initiative. It was a long-term national project centered in Beersheba, a city that would one day become the intellectual and infrastructure heart of the water revolution. Engineers, planners, and policymakers began designing a network that acted like a national circulatory system. Pipelines, high-pressure pumps, and underground channels slowly started to take shape. Through the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, the system expanded, adapting to the country's growing needs. But it wasn't until the 2000s that the real turning point arrived. Facing mounting water shortages, Israel decided to implement a technology that many countries were hesitant to adopt on a large scale: desalination. The basic idea is simple. You take seawater, push it through fine membranes, remove the salt, and send the clean water into the national grid. But the challenge lies in scale and energy consumption. At the time, Desalination was expensive and slow, and most governments avoided depending on a system that looked fragile and costly. Israel ignored the skepticism and decided to push ahead anyway. They built massive plants along the Mediterranean coastline, each one designed to operate with increasing efficiency as technology improved. Reverse osmosis, the method used in these plants, forces seawater through membranes so fine that even microscopic impurities stay behind. After filtration removes salt and bacteria, minerals are added back to make the water safe and pleasant to drink. Israel's engineers refined this process year after year, gradually lowering operational costs and improving reliability. By 2013, the Sorek desalination plant changed everything. At the time, it was the largest facility of its kind in the world. What made it important wasn't just its size but its efficiency. Engineers used advanced membrane structures, automated monitoring systems, predictive maintenance, and energy-saving technologies that brought down the cost of desalinated water faster than most analysts expected. By 2024, the cost of treating seawater in Israel was lower than what several major American cities were spending on traditional freshwater treatment. That shift alone proved that desalination didn't have to be a luxury technology, it could become a national backbone. But desalination only solves part of the problem. Cities consume a predictable amount of water, but agriculture uses far more. A country cannot rely on desalination alone to sustain farms. That forced Israel to build the second pillar of its water revolution, wastewater recycling. Instead of letting used water flow into the sea, Israel built a nationwide system that collects wastewater, cleans it through multi-stage treatment plants, and channels it toward farms, especially those in the Negev. This system has become one of the most advanced anywhere. Wastewater passes through mechanical filters, biological treatment tanks, chemical processes, and ultraviolet purification systems. By the time it reaches the end of this chain, the water is safe enough for crops. It is then stored underground to stabilize its temperature and quality before being pumped to agricultural regions. By 2025, more than two-thirds of Israel's agriculture depended on this recycled water. That number is unmatched globally. Even countries with strong water management systems, such as Singapore, have struggled to reach similar levels. For communities that are too remote or too expensive to connect to large pipelines, Israel developed a third approach: atmospheric water generation. These machines pull moisture straight from the air, even in dry conditions. A company called WaterGen created one of the most widely used systems. Powered by electricity or solar panels, these units condense airborne moisture, filter it, disinfect it, and store it as drinkable water. Some units operate in places where humidity falls as low as 20%. By 2024, thousands of these devices were deployed across Israel, especially in the Negev and along defense outposts. The technology also became popular in countries facing water stress, from India to South Africa. When you combine desalination, wastewater reuse, and atmospheric generators, the numbers tell a story few expected. Israel now produces more than 1.2 billion cubic meters of water per year. It no longer waits for rainfall or relies on a shrinking lake to keep its economy alive. Instead, water flows through a national backbone known as the National Water Carrier. Sometimes nicknamed the Steel River, this system extends almost 130 kilometers. Pumps push water across rugged terrain, through heat that would normally evaporate it, and up steep changes in elevation that would defeat older infrastructure. This engineered waterway delivers more than 1 million cubic meters of water daily, feeding cities, farms, industries, and research centers. And once water reaches the Negev, something remarkable happens. Land once written off as useless suddenly supports thriving farms. Israeli engineers introduced drip irrigation decades ago, a method that delivers small, precise volumes of water directly to plant roots. This minimizes waste and increases yields. The company that pioneered this technology, Negev, changed irrigation worldwide. Now, many farms combine drip irrigation with AI-powered greenhouses. These greenhouses monitor everything from soil temperature to leaf health in real time, adjusting irrigation, nutrients, and ventilation automatically. The result is a level of agricultural efficiency difficult to match. By this point, the surprise does not end with crops. In a place where wells used to run dry, Israel now raises fish in the desert. It sounds improbable until you discover what lies beneath the Negev. At depths between 15 and 30 meters, pockets of geothermal groundwater allow for warm aquaculture pools. These pools are stocked with species suited for the climate, and the waste material they produce becomes fertilizer for nearby farms. It's a cycle of resource reuse that turns a harsh landscape into a productive ecosystem. As all this development unfolds, the Negev is becoming more than an agricultural zone. Renewable energy projects, such as the Ashalim solar tower with its ring of thousands of mirrors, turn sunlight into electricity at a scale few imagined. As a result, the desert is slowly becoming a hub where agriculture, technology, energy production, and water management merge into a single evolving landscape. Even with all these achievements, Israel quickly realized that solving a national water crisis isn't like fixing a simple mechanical fault. Every solution creates new questions, and the country had to confront the consequences of scaling water production to levels never seen before in the region. One of the first challenges came from desalination itself. While reverse osmosis produces clean water, it also leaves behind a concentrated byproduct called brine. This highly salty discharge has the potential to disrupt marine life when released back into the sea. For countries with fragile coastlines or limited oceanic circulation, improper management of brine can trigger long-term ecological problems. Israel had to develop strategies for controlled release, deeper outflow pipes, and ongoing environmental monitoring. None of these measures eliminate the issue entirely, but they help reduce its impact. Another major challenge is the Dead Sea, which continues to shrink at an alarming rate. Historically, the Jordan River fed the sea, maintaining its unusual salt concentration and supporting a rare ecosystem. But as Israel and neighboring countries diverted more water for agriculture and human consumption, the natural flow slowed dramatically. Every year, the waterline retreats, leaving behind sinkholes and fractured terrain. Desalination helps relieve some of the pressure by reducing reliance on freshwater sources, but it doesn't restore the original hydrological balance. Conversations about building a canal or pipeline from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea have surfaced repeatedly, but concerns surrounding cost, environmental risk, and regional geopolitics remain unresolved. This situation highlights a key point. Even the most advanced water system has limitations when faced with regional scale changes. Energy consumption represents another layer of complexity. Although Israel has improved the efficiency of desalination dramatically, the process still demands significant electricity. If that energy comes from fossil fuels, it increases emissions, which in turn intensifies climate pressures. Israel's push towards solar power, particularly in the Negev, is partly a response to this challenge. The Ashalim project, for example, helps offset the electricity used in water treatment. Still, balancing water production and energy efficiency remains an ongoing task. This is a reminder that no engineered system exists in isolation. Water, energy, agriculture, and land use are intertwined, and optimizing one requires constant adjustments to the others. Digital security is another area where Israel has had to stay alert. Modern water systems depend heavily on sensors, automated valves, real-time data, and machine learning models that adjust flows and detect leaks. This digital infrastructure is powerful, but it also introduces new vulnerabilities. Cybersecurity experts have warned repeatedly that critical infrastructure like water networks can become targets for sophisticated attacks. In 2024, several attempted intrusions made headlines, pushing Israel to reinforce its defenses. This was a sobering reminder that even advanced water systems are not immune to modern threats. A single breach could disrupt supply for millions of people or damage sensitive infrastructure. Beyond Israel's borders, the rest of the world has been paying close attention. Countries facing water scarcity have tried to learn from the Israeli model, but their results have varied. Singapore is perhaps the most successful example. The city-state combined desalination with groundwater recharge, wastewater recycling, and strong public education campaigns. They also built a cultural acceptance around recycled water, branded as Any Water, which helped reduce public hesitation. In this way, Singapore transformed from a city that once imported nearly all its water to one that now manages its resources with impressive independence. Jordan has also adopted parts of Israel's approach, especially in wastewater treatment. Through joint regional projects, Jordan has expanded its capacity to reuse water for agriculture. These efforts have helped stabilize rural communities that suffered from long-term droughts. However, regional politics and limited budgets make it hard to scale these systems as fast as Israel did. On the other side of the world, California's experience shows how difficult it can be to implement new water strategies even with strong financial resources. Environmental concerns, regulatory delays, public resistance to desalination plants, and debates over the safety of treated wastewater have slowed progress. Many proposals remain stuck in approval stages for years. This contrast underscores a crucial truth: technology only works when policy, public trust, and political commitment support it. Israel succeeded not because it had more advanced technology than everyone else, but because it treated water management as a national priority for decades. This long-term commitment is what allowed Israel to endure years of trial and error. Mistakes were common. Early desalination plants struggled with maintenance. Pipelines faced unexpected corrosion. Farmers resisted recycled wastewater until they saw its reliability. Even the national water carrier had to be re-engineered multiple times to keep up with changing needs. Yet each problem pushed Israel to innovate rather than retreat. Over 70 years, that persistence turned into a cultural habit. Treat water not as an unpredictable force, but as a resource that responds to engineering, experimentation, and data. Today, the Negev desert shows what that mindset can create. Fields of tomatoes grow where hardly any vegetation survived a century ago. Rows of citrus trees stretch across the landscape, watered by precise drips that feed directly into the soil. Greenhouses operate like biological laboratories, adjusting their internal environment minute by minute to maximize yield. On the outskirts of these farms, desert fish pools shimmer in the sun, stocked with species adapted to the warm groundwater. It's an image that would have looked impossible to earlier generations, yet it has become normal across large stretches of the region. What makes this transformation particularly striking is how interconnected everything has become. The water powering the farms in the Negev might have come from the Mediterranean through a desalination plant. It may have flowed through the national water carrier, been mixed with recycled wastewater, and reached the farm with the help of solar-powered pumps. In turn, crops grown in the desert support local food security and export markets. The fish farms provide nutrient-rich waste that enriches nearby soil. Solar fields generate the electricity that keeps all these systems running. The entire region begins to function like a loop, where every output becomes an input for something else. As impressive as this system is, it also serves as a warning to other countries. Climate change is tightening water supplies across the planet. Droughts are lasting longer. Rain patterns are changing. Rivers are shrinking. Nations that once felt water secure are now experiencing shortages that disrupt everything from farming to electricity generation. Israel's experience shows that waiting for rain, waiting for policy reforms, or waiting for nature to correct itself is no longer realistic. The countries that survive the coming decades will be those that adopt an engineering mindset toward water. Not a mindset driven by wishful thinking, but one grounded in data, planning, investment, and long-term discipline. Israel in 2025 stands at a point where the world can see a clear example of what is possible when a nation refuses to accept water scarcity as an unchangeable reality. A region that once struggled to maintain simple vegetation now supports agricultural output that competes with some of the most productive farmlands globally. A landscape once known for empty silence now hosts laboratories, research centers, military installations, and renewable energy plants. The transformation isn't perfect or complete. Challenges remain, and environmental tensions continue. But the direction is undeniable. The desert has begun to work for the country, not against it. Perhaps the most important lesson in this entire story is that progress came through decades of consistency. No single innovation made the difference. It took political will, legal flexibility, continuous funding, public cooperation, and generations of engineers and scientists who refused to give up on a piece of land most of the world considered unusable. In many ways, the Negev reflects the story of modern engineering itself. Slow, iterative, often invisible, but powerful enough to reshape landscapes and secure futures. If you walk through certain parts of the Negev today, you'll see evidence of this transformation all around you. Pipes run beneath the sand, carrying clean water to farms miles away. Solar towers reflect the light of tens of thousands of mirrors. Greenhouses extend across the terrain with quiet confidence. And beneath it all, a network of systems works day and night, ensuring the region never returns to the water insecurity that once threatened the entire country. Israel's journey shows that water security is not a matter of luck or climate. It is a matter of choice. When a nation decides to build the systems that guarantee its survival, even the harshest environments can be reimagined. The world will continue watching how Israel deals with the next set of challenges, from environmental pressures to energy transitions. But one thing is already clear. The country didn't just pour water into the desert. It poured decades of planning, innovation, and determination into a problem most nations still hesitate to confront. And the result is a blueprint for how a water-scarce world can build its way out of crisis. If you enjoyed this story and want more deep dives into engineering projects shaping the world, like the video, share it, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.